Okay, so picture the scene. You walk into a room,
Mm-hmm.
it's a party, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe, a professional networking mixer, or even just a friend's casual get-together. The air is just thick with noise.
Oh,
Glasses clinking, there's a bass line thumping somewhere, and just this wall of chatter. You look around, and here's the kicker. You don't know a single soul.
that is the universal social nightmare right there. The absolute worst.
It really is. Your heart starts doing that little nervous flutter, your palms get a bit sweaty, and you have this overwhelming desire to just find the nearest wall, plant yourself against it,
And check your phone.
and intensely check your phone for emails that definitely do not exist.
I think everyone, and I mean everyone, has played the fake text message game at a party just to look busy.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a gold medalist in that event. But okay, now I want you to raise the stakes. Imagine dealing with all of that social anxiety, all that sensory overload, but you have to do it in a second language.
Oof.
That's the specific pressure cooker we're unpacking today. We've got a stack of really fascinating insights from Infinite Hearts, specifically a breakdown by Melissa and Jack called Mastering English Conversation for Social Gatherings.
And what's so compelling about this material is that it doesn't just treat this like a vocabulary test. It treats it as a strategic problem. It's hitting two hurdles at once.
Hmm.
There's the language do I know the words? But then there's the massive psychological problem.
Do you have the guts to say them?
Exactly. Do I have the guts to actually say them out loud?
That distinction is huge. Melissa and Jack, they seem to argue that the barrier isn't usually your vocabulary level, it's the fear. The fear of silence, the fear of making a mistake. It's that voice in your head.
Precisely. It's what linguists and psychologists might call the affective filter.
Yep.
When your anxiety is high, your ability to access the language you actually know just drops. It goes to zero.
You freeze.
You freeze. You know the words, but your brain just locks the door.
I found myself nodding along to this because, honestly, even as a native speaker, small talk is my kryptonite. I dread it. I never know how to start without sounding like a robot.
Or a weather reporter.
Totally. But the mission of today's deep dive is to prove that simple is actually a superpower. We are not here to learn big, impressive academic words. We're here to learn strategy.
Right. And the source material argues, pretty convincingly, I think, that trying to be impressive with complex grammar is actually what trips people up. If your goal is connection, perfection is the enemy. Complexity is the enemy.
So let's get right into the tactics. The source calls this the entry strategy. You're standing there, you want to talk, but your brain is just freezing up. What does the Infinite Hearts team say is the absolute best way to break the ice?
Their advice is, it's almost radically simple. They suggest dropping the pressure to come up with some clever opening line. You don't need a joke. You don't need some profound observation about, the state of the world.
You just need to say something.
You just need to signal friendliness. The scripts they provide are literally, hey there, or how's it going?
That's it. Just, hey there.
That's it. Or, hi, I'm Naaman.
See, part of me wants to push back and say, that's too easy. It feels like I'm cheating. If I've spent years learning a language, shouldn't my opener be more substantial?
I get that, but the other part of you probably realizes that when you're nervous, you forget even the easy stuff.
True.
Well, let's look at why those specific phrases work, like from a psychological perspective. Hey there, or how's it going? They're what we call low-pressure openers.
Oh, low press.
They're invitations, not demands. If you walk up to a stranger and ask some complicated multi-part question right away, you're demanding a huge amount of cognitive load from them. You're making them work too hard too soon.
You're putting them on the spot, yeah.
Exactly. But how's it going? Just asks for a reflex answer. Good you. It invites a smile. It signals, I am safe, I am friendly, and this won't be hard. It lowers the barrier to entry for both people.
It's like tossing a ball gently underhand instead of throwing a fastball right at their head.
That is a perfect analogy. You were just warming up the interaction. And the source material, it shares this really telling anecdote from Jack about this. He calls it his experience at the wall.
I loved this story because I have lived this story. Paint the picture for us.
So Jack recounts his first time at a party where he felt this intense, paralyzing shyness. He describes standing near the wall, holding his drink, basically like a shield.
Classic move.
Classic defensive move, right. And just not talking. He was paralyzed by this thought loop of, my English is not good, my English is not good.
Which is a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it?
Completely. If you think your English isn't good enough, you stay silent. If you stay silent, you get no feedback. You never prove to yourself that you can communicate. So the fear just grows and that wall feels safer and safer.
So what was the pivot? How did he peel himself off that wall?
He decided to just trust the simplicity. The source actually notes he took a physical action first. He took a deep breath, which is crucial. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, calming the nervous system physically before you try to speak, it tells your brain, we are not under attack. He smiled, walked up to someone, and just used that line, hey there, how's it going?
And did the world end? Did they laugh in his face?
The opposite. It worked. Instantly, the other person smiled back and answered. The connection was made.
I think the takeaway there, and this is something I want our listeners to really absorb, is that confidence wasn't the prerequisite. He wasn't confident before he spoke. He became confident.
Because he spoke. That's a brilliant way to put it. The action precedes the feeling. You don't wait for the fear to go away. You speak through it, using the simplest tool you have.
Okay, so we've successfully initiated contact. We said, hey there. Now we hit the next hurdle, which I personally find even scarier than the intro. The maintenance phase.
Ah, the dreaded silence.
Exactly. We've said hello.
Mhm.
Now what? How do we keep this thing alive so we're not just standing there staring at each other while I pretend to drink from an empty cup? Right. So this is where the source material pivots from scripts to mechanics. Once the intro is done, you need fuel. And Jack and Melissa suggest using what they call open questions. The specific phrase they recommend is, what brings you here tonight?
What brings you here tonight? I like that. It feels a lot broader than, how do you know the host? Or the dreaded, what do you do for work?
It's much safer than, what do you do?
Yeah.
Which can feel like an interview or a status check. In some cultures, asking about work immediately it's a bit aggressive,
Yeah.
but what brings you here gives the other person options. They could talk about their job, sure, but they could also talk about their friend who invited them, or their interest in the event, or even just that they were bored and wanted a drink.
It hands the microphone to them. It lets them choose what they're comfortable with.
It does. And this leads to the second part of the maintenance strategy, which is, I would argue, the most important skill for any language learner: active listening.
This was a big point in the source. They really emphasize that you don't need to be the one talking all the time to be good at conversation. In fact, listening is more important.
It relieves so much pressure. If you're focusing on listening, you aren't standing there panic planning your next sentence. The source gives specific phrases to show you're engaged, like, that's interesting, or tell me more. They're small phrases, but they act like grease for the wheels of conversation. They keep the other person going.
It's funny, the source mentions that when you say, tell me more, you're basically making the other person do all the work, but they feel great about it.
Yes, because everyone loves being listened to. You become a brilliant conversationalist by saying almost nothing. You're validating them. And while they're talking, you're getting used to their accent, their speed. You're buying yourself time.
Now, let's say the what brought you here topic runs dry. You've nodded, you've said, that's interesting, you need something new. The source material suggests what I'm calling safe topics. What are the go-tos when you're stuck?
They suggest anchoring the conversation in the immediate environment. Don't try to pull some complex topic out of thin air. Just look around you. The two examples they give are music and the venue itself.
So something like, I really like this music, what do you think? Or, this place is nice, have you been here before?
Right, and you mentioned earlier you really liked the music tip. Why did that one stand out?
Because it's a shared reality. We are both hearing it right now. It's not abstract. It's not like asking, so what's your opinion on 18th century literature?
Yeah.
Talking about the music or the room is something we're experiencing together in real time. It feels very low stakes.
It is low stakes, and it's observational. It lets you share an experience rather than just exchanging data. It builds this tiny little bridge of us in that moment. We are both here hearing this song.
But conversations drift. So let's say we are talking about the music, but I want to ask about something else. Or maybe something they said sparked a different thought. Do they offer any advice on how to pivot without it being super weird?
They do, and this is a great tool for the toolkit. They offer a specific, smooth move phrase for segues. Speaking of that, I was wondering.
Okay, let's unpack that. Why does that specific phrasing work so well?
It creates a logical bridge, even if the bridge is a little flimsy. I mean, even if the connection is loose. The phrase, speaking of that, signals to the listener that you're about to shift, but you're connecting it to what was just said. It makes the conversation feel like a flow, not a series of jagged jumps.
It's the conversational equivalent of using your turn signal before you change lanes.
No, that is a perfect analogy. You are signaling your intent. It prevents that conversational whiplash. And while you are driving this conversation, you also need to be, you know, looking at the road conditions. The source talks a lot about reading the room, or really reading the person.
Yes, the nonverbal cues. This is something we totally forget when we're hyper-focused on grammar. We get so in our own heads.
Jack mentions specifically looking at the other person's energy. It sounds so obvious, but when we're nervous about a language barrier, we get tunnel vision. We stare at their mouth to catch the words, or we look at the floor. We stop looking at the person's face.
So what are we looking for?
Energy levels. If they look tired, if their answers are getting shorter, you keep your questions short or you let them go. If they seem happy and energetic, you can talk more. You have to match their energy.
Jack actually shared a bit of a failure story on this, didn't he? He admitted to a time where he just talked way too much.
He did. He said he was so excited to be practicing his English that he just wasn't listening well. And he realized, too late, that the other person looked exhausted. The lesson he drew from that was crucial. English conversation has a rhythm. It should be slow, calm, natural.
Do not rush. That was the specific advice. And I think that's so hard when you're nervous. You want to rush to get the words out before you forget them.
But rushing creates tension. It makes you look anxious, which can make the other person feel anxious. Pausing, on the other hand, creates comfort. It shows you're confident enough to just hold the silence for a second.
Okay, let's talk about the other side of that coin. Not talking too much, but not understanding at all. Jack talked about a time he asked a question, the person answered, and he had absolutely no idea what they just said.
The blank stare scenario.
Yeah, that is my nightmare. You ask a question, they give you a whole paragraph back, and you caught maybe the word the. What's the fix?
The fix is honesty. Jack's advice is to simply say, "Sorry, can you say that again?"
It feels like admitting defeat, though. It feels like saying, I'm not good enough to talk to you.
But the source notes something really encouraging here, and I think this is true in 99% of cases. People are usually kind. When Jack used that phrase, the person didn't laugh at him. They didn't walk away. They spoke more slowly.
Right.
They wanted to be understood just as much as he wanted to understand.
That's a great point. We assume the other person is judging us,
Yeah.
like they're some kind of examiner, but usually they just want to communicate. They're on your team.
Right. Asking for clarification actually shows you care about what they're saying. Pretending to understand when you don't, that's where the disconnect happens. That's when it gets truly awkward.
So we've entered the conversation, we've maintained it, we've dodged the awkward silences. Now comes the part I always struggle with, the exit strategy. You know that feeling when a conversation has just run its course, the energy is dipping, but you don't know how to walk away without being rude.
And Jack mentioned he used to just walk away.
Just silently drift away, like a ghost.
Yes, he admits that felt rude, and it probably looked very strange. But the source provides a solution that I think is brilliant because it's socially acceptable in almost every culture. It's the refresh excuse.
I'm gonna grab another drink.
Exactly. Or combine it. It was great chatting with you. I'm just going to go grab another drink.
Why is this the ultimate escape hatch? Why does this work so well?
Because it's a neutral reason to move. It's almost biological. No one can argue with it. You aren't saying you are boring me. You're saying I am thirsty. It's a reset button that allows both people to circulate without anyone feeling rejected.
It saves face for everyone. It's the get-out-of-jail-free card of social anxiety.
Precisely.
And what if the conversation actually went well? What if you don't want to escape, but you have to go? Or you just want to make sure you see them again?
Then you seal the deal. You use the friendship potential scripts, let's talk again later, or the modern classic. Can I add you on social media?
Can I add you on social media? It's so low pressure. Asking for a phone number can feel a bit intense, a bit like asking for a date sometimes. But social media feels casual.
It validates the interaction. It says, I enjoyed this enough that I want a digital connection. It keeps the door open.
I want to move to what I think is really the heart of this deep dive. We've talked about the mechanics, the nuts and bolts. But the source material gives us a case study, a real success story from Jack that shows how all these little tips, the simple hello, the listening, can actually lead to something massive.
This is the group success story, and it really illustrates the potential here. It's not just about surviving a party, it's about thriving.
So set the scene for us. Jack is at another party, small gathering, doesn't know anyone.
Right. And he sees a group of people laughing. Now, let's be honest. For anyone with social anxiety, a laughing group is the single most intimidating thing to approach.
It's a fortress.
It is. They already have an inside joke. They're already bonded. You're the outsider.
A fortress of laughter. I would usually walk the other way. I just assume they don't want me there.
Exactly. But Jack decides to use the tools. He walks over slowly, again, controlling the pace, not rushing. He smiles, and he asks a question that frankly takes a lot of guts. Hey there, can I join you?
Can I join you? Wow. That is brave. I mean, the fear of rejection there is high. They could just say no.
They could, but think about what happened. They said, of course. And suddenly, he wasn't outside the fortress. He was inside.
And once he was in, he didn't try to dominate the conversation. The source says he introduced himself simply, "Hi, I'm Jack," and then fell back on those safe topics we discussed.
Food and music. He played it safe, but effective. He listened carefully to their stories, asked open questions, and the result was he felt safe. And this is the critical psychological point. Because he felt safe, his English flowed better.
It's that feedback loop again. Safety creates confidence. Confidence creates fluency.
And this wasn't just a 5-minute chat that faded away. Tell us what happened in the long run.
This is the amazing part. They became good friends. They actually planned a trip together, a short tour. And Jack describes this trip where they were talking and laughing and sharing stories for days. And he realized that English felt easier not because he'd gone home and studied more grammar books,
Right.
but because he felt accepted by the group.
That is incredible. So the connection actually fueled the language learning, not the other way around.
Exactly. And it all started with one sentence: "Can I join you?" If he hadn't asked that, if he had stayed by the wall checking his phone, he never would have gone on that trip. He never would have made those friends. The source material really drives this point home. One simple sentence can open so many doors.
That's profound, isn't it? We obsess over having perfect vocabulary, memorizing lists of words, but Jack's life changed because he mastered, "Hey there," and "Can I join you?"
Yeah.
It connects back to the bigger picture of why we learn languages in the first place. It's not to pass a test, it's not to impress a teacher, it's to connect.
So if we look at this holistically, what are we really learning here? It seems like the mission we talked about at the start, keeping it simple, is totally validated.
Completely. I mean, if we synthesize the takeaways, number one is that simplicity beats complexity every single time in social settings. You don't need to be a philosopher, you just need to be present.
And number two is that we have scripts for a reason.
Yes. Scripts like, "What brings you here?" or "I'm going to grab a drink," are tools. They're tools to lower your anxiety. They're safety nets. If you know you have a way in and a way out, you're less afraid to even enter the room.
It lowers the stakes. It gives you a roadmap.
Exactly. And I think the third big takeaway is that shift in focus.
Focusing on the other person.
Right. If I'm actively listening to you, really listening, I'm not worrying about me. I'm not critiquing my own grammar. Active listening relieves the pressure on yourself. When Jack stopped worrying about his English and started listening to the group's stories, he became part of the group.
Melissa, in the source material, poses a question to the listeners that I think we should pose to ours.
Yeah.
She asks, have you ever felt shy at a party? Which I think we've established is a yes for pretty much everyone. But then she asks, what sentence would you like to try first?
It's a call to action. It's asking you to pick your weapon, so to speak. Is it, "Hey there"? Is it, "What brings you here"? You need to have that one sentence ready in your pocket before you walk through the door.
For me, I think I'm going to adopt "What brings you here tonight." It's
Right.
just, it's classy. It sounds interested, but not nosy.
I like speaking of that.
Mm.
It's the secret to keeping a conversation flowing smoothly, even when my brain is scrambling for a new topic.
The source material ends on a really lovely thought. They mention that practice makes progress, which is a nice twist on practice makes perfect.
Mm.
But they also say making connections is joyful.
And that's the final thought I'd leave our listeners with. Social anxiety, that fear we talked about at the beginning, it tells us to hide. It tells us that safety is against the wall, checking our fake emails. But the source suggests that the joy is actually on the other side of that fear. The joy of the trip Jack took, the laughter, the friendship. It was all waiting on the other side of a simple, "Hey there."
The risk is a little awkwardness, but the reward is connection.
Exactly. And the awkwardness usually only lasts for a few seconds. The connection can last a lifetime.
Well, on that note, I'm feeling ready to walk into a room and actually talk to someone. Maybe I'll start with you.
I'm right here.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive into conversational mastery. We hope you found a few scripts to put in your back pocket for your next social gathering.
Remember, take a breath, smile, and just keep it simple.
See you next time.